takeaways from high school football in Virginia on this 11th day of October. We greet you before midnight, 12 Eastern, and the 12th of October here on this lovely Friday night. Glad you are tuned in. Interact with us through all of our social pages. We're on IG, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on LinkedIn, we're all over the web, Twitter, X, all those good things. We'll give you my 5 takeaways and anything on your mind in the world of sports on this particular night. Don't video meet call me. Whoever's trying to send me I'm not dealing with this right now. I'm doing my show. And if you out there, you know who you are. We got a lot of high school football to go over with you as we've reached the midway point, just past it, honestly, here. And I've got the 5 takeaways for you. I was out in Chesapeake tonight at Indian River, James L. Fry Stadium. We'll get to that game in a second. But we do rankings on VirginiaPreps.com. We're the only site that I'm aware of that does 6 class rankings from class 6 down to class 1, and we don't do it off just a computer. We do it off what we believe is the case when it comes to Virginia high school football. We don't go off last year's results like the other website that begins with an M, has an axe, and has preps in it. We are VA Preps. And in doing so, they had a defending state champion that's 0 for losing by 70 plus, number 1 in the state. We actually have 3 reigning state champs, by the way, right now. This is amazing to me, very astonishing. Coming into tonight, that were 500 or below with Galax, Freedom of Woodbridge, and Radford. But class 1, all 6 of our class number 1 ranked teams to start the season, Hayfield in class 6, Maury in class 5, Phoebus, reigning 3-time state champs who have now won 41 in a row in class 4, Liberty Christian in class 3, Graham in class 2, and in class 1, Essex were unbeaten. Well, that's no longer the case because Essex took an L. A surprising L to many because the team that beat them, Rappahannock, the Raiders of Rappahannock, unless you live in the Northern Neck, you probably don't know the nickname of Rappahannock. You might not care. Well, they got a pretty good quarterback running back tandem in C.J. Kelly and Kenneth Madison. Madison coming in 176 yards per game rushing, 15 TDs. Kelly, the quarterback, with 940-plus yards of offense, rushing and passing with 14 total TDs. They had lost 26 in a row as a program to Essex. Essex had won 26 straight regular season games, no more, 13-8. Rappahannock gets it done against Essex, and their defense showing it's for real to me to slow down Essex attack in this game and get the W. First time they're this undefeated as far as 6-0, 7-0 for Rappahannock this far into the season since 1992. They're 6-0 for the first time in 32 years. None of those kids were born. We have to rework the Class 1 rankings because they get this win tonight, and now they could be a team playing out in Salem, VA in December for a state championship if they can get Essex again. They're probably going to see each other again in the region championship. Oh, by the way, Northumberland hopes to have a say in this, but it's a surprising result to many. Northern Neck and across the board in the state tonight. And now we go to the drawing board to say who should be number 1 in the state. Should it be Alta Vista, who we had number 2? And they put up 74 on Dan River, their Dogwood district rival, 7 touchdown runs, 4 in the second quarter. Maybe. Let's stick in Class 1 for a second as we go to number 2 on the Hats Hit takeaways. It's up on our X page, our Twitter page at Hatfield Sports. If you're watching there, we thank you for doing so. You're always encouraged to interact with us, whether you're watching on our YouTube, Wancova Sports TV, or IG, or Facebook, or any of the platforms. Number 2, Rye Cove. They only beat Lehigh last week, 14-6. You say, that's not impressive. They shouldn't be ranked number 3 in the state where you had them. Well, tonight they showed why they're a legitimate top 3 team in the state in Class 1. They beat Eastside 40-8. And for all you kiddies out there, all you grown-ups out there, we don't need extra points. We don't need those kickers. Go for 2. Go for the gusto because the boys from Clinchport in Rye Cove, they were 5 for 5 going for 2. Go for 2. Go for 2. Who needs the PATs? Go for 2. Leave the offense out there on the field, whether it's from the 1 or the 2. The NFL's got those long extra points. Go for 2. I salute you, Coach Collier. Go for 2. And he did it, and he was 5 for 5. He should go buy a lotto ticket, by the way. He might have a great weekend if he goes and buys a lotto ticket. Go for 2. Do it. We don't need 1 when you can get 2 because 10 points is more than 5 points. 40-8 is better than 35-8. Oh, we'll get through more points, by the way. Scoring 97 plus without 35 should be illegal. We're getting conflicting reports tonight, whether it was 103-0 or 97-0 over Manor. I did hear back from the AD, Tommy Staples. It was 97-0. Commodores beat Manor out of Portsmouth. Thank you very much, Matt Trick. You're funny, Coach B. But no. we'll get to that in a minute because I know everybody's talking about that. How many points Morey and Hayfield score on a weekly basis? And by the way, my boy Hector out there says that Morey can't hang with Hayfield. The Commodores might have heard you when you sent that to me through the Twitter, the X computer. They won't play each other, unfortunately, because one's in Class 5, one's in Class 6. Maybe, just maybe, we can organize a Virginia Preps Classic for football. We might as well do it. Since everyone wants to have a basketball showcase now and have a classic, and that's another rant for another time, by the way, to get me all fired up about basketball. All these basketball coaches out there who want to make sure you do your schedule around them. We could care less about you doing your schedule for your event. That's another story for our time. But back to Ryco for a second. They're really good. They can make the state championship and possibly see Rappahannock. Alta Vista saying, whoa, hold on. We were number 2. You should bump us up to number 1. 74 points this week. What are you talking about? We run the football. We have backs. We play physical football. That's right. You tell them, Jack, a VA Preps football event will be awesome. Yeah, a lot better than basketball. We got too many prima donnas in basketball. Yeah, I said it. Whoops, I said it. Too many prima donnas. Listen, Class 1's going to be fun when we get there because you can throw that's right. They're ducking the smoke. Tell them, Coach Barrett, they're ducking the smoke. We want Class 6 versus Class 5 champions in football or hoops. I don't care if it's Hayfield, Morey, if it's Woodside, South Lakes. I don't care. We want the champs to play the champs. Stop ducking the smoke. Stop running. It's right there in front of all of you. Tell them Ballin' VA Podcast 804 out there. You know what I'm talking about. Let's get them together. We don't care if they're 804, 757, 703. Get them together. Let's go to number 3 on the Hats Hits. We told you about Class 1. Half the people are saying we have no idea what we're talking about with Rycove and Eastside, where they're from, Cumberland District. What are you talking about? You're speaking a foreign language to me. I don't know if it's Spanglish or French or Japanese or number 3 on the Hats Hit. Now, you might know this out there. We do these predictions. We write up these teams. We do all these things on Virginia Preps and on social. And I always hear that our district is the best. No event better than the VA Preps Rivals event during the season. You tell them, Coach Barrett, listen, they're out there ducking the smoke. They want to go play in the LMNOP Classic. I don't know what it is, but we've been doing it 16 plus years. And sometimes there's a lot of, posers out there, imposters out there trying to do it. As my guy Hector just sent me a message. I guess he was watching. He didn't like what I had to say. Well, listen, go tell your guys, go prove it out there. Anyhow, let's get back to what we were talking about, which was number 3. So best districts out there. I hear from people in Lynchburg that the Seminole district is the best. It's physical, hard-nosed. I get it. For years, the folks in Nova told me the Concord, where you got Westfield and Centerville and Madison, who's the flag carrier now, Madison, the Warhawks, Justin Counts' team. I get it. 757 in the 90s, you know what it was about. It was about the PD, the Peninsula District, Hampton, Phoebus. Saw that rivalry last week in person. Still got some intensity. It's just not quite as electric as it used to be when you had Ronald Curry and you had Tyrod Taylor and you had Taj Boyd. It's not quite what it was. I'm not blaming anybody, just not quite what it was. And I'm not going to put the Bay Rivers district, but you're going to start busting out loud about it. But I've heard for years, when we started doing this in 2004, that the Bay Rivers, come on, they don't play football. I'll tell you something. Go look at the schedules. We're going to have 3 teams, in my opinion, 3. Maybe the schedule makers had this all planned out. 3 teams in one district, unbeaten going into November. And I haven't looked at everybody's district schedule. I haven't looked at the Cumberland district. I haven't looked at the Catoctin district. I haven't looked at the Central district or Dominion district or the PD or any district. I haven't looked at all of them. The Hogohigi district, love that district. You can't spell it or say it without tripping up. However, the Bay Rivers can hold its head up high, its chin up high, and say, we are going to have 3 teams unblemished come November. Lafayette, 6-0 right now, runner-up in Class 3 a year ago, a perennial state power under Andy Lynn. They don't have a lot of flashy skill kids. They get the job done. Pocosin, the Bull Islanders, they went to Norfolk and played Lake Taylor. Some said they'd Peter Pants. They didn't do that. They won the game outright in Norfolk, in Hank's house, in his backyard. Won the game. They're 6-0. Their starting quarterback's out with an injury. They keep rolling. A lot of gritty players. Cody Little, Khalil Smith, Carter Jones in the trenches. They keep getting it done in spite of the injuries. They're unbeaten. They made the state semis last year in Class 2. Lost to Riverheads. They want to get back, go a step further, and compete for a championship. And then Bruton in Class 2. They haven't been playing most of your Bay Rivers teams. Here's Bruton, this Cinderella story, this surprise story, a team that had lost 26, 28 games in a row in the Bay Rivers. They played the Northamptons and Andoas, the West Points, Northumberlands. They beat Tab tonight, 14-10. Why is that significant? Well, it's significant because the Tab Tigers Okay, it's not Terry Kirby. It's not Chris Slade. It's not those Tab Tigers from the late 80s, early 90s that were putting up numbers and opening eyes and dropping jaws. But Tab had beaten them 11 consecutive times in the series. And guess what? You look at the schedules. Lafayette plays Poquoson when? Last game of the season, November 7th. Poquoson doesn't play Brute until when? November 1st. There you have it. Listen, my 757 friends, all of you are going to laugh at me. Come on. Bay Rivers is not on the same level as the beach in the eastern and the peninsula and the southeastern. Hey, it's a pretty neat little story there. They could have 3 unbeaten teams in their district going into November. Pretty cool. Let's go to number 4 on the Hats Hits. And that fourth one is going to be the defense of the Oscar Smith Tigers. And our man Terry Batten chiming in. He's a big-time Smith Tigers supporter. Top half of the SED matches up in their district. I don't disagree with you, Terry. When you look at Oscar Smith and Kings Fork and Indian River and what those teams have produced, Kings Fork's got a chance to play for a region championship. Indian River won a region championship last year in 5A. I'm sure Green Run's going to have something to say about that this year as they've been putting up major numbers. Their defense is quietly rolling along. Kassan Farrar is the area's leading passer. Jaden Anderson catching passes. Charles Jackson open up running back. Salem hopes to be back in that mix when it's all said and done. But you look at Indian River, Oscar Smith, Kings Fork, 3 teams legitimate contenders for a region championship. And I'm not even going to look at Nansemond River and scoff at them because they got a good program as Alonzo Ricks' team, and they could win themselves 7+ games this year and be a factor. But Oscar Smith's defense tonight at James L. Fry Stadium, a lot of people are going to say we have the best defense in the state. It could be Phoebus in the peninsula. It could be, I'm sure Matoka is saying, look at us tonight. We shut out Thomas Dale. Look at our defense with a guy who's going to an SEC school, a Power 5 school at defensive end, and Caleb Williams. They're saying we got one of the best defenses. And you know what? Hayfield's even saying, we're putting up all these numbers, but look at our defense. We've been shutting people down. We've got a great defense. Madison's saying that up in Northern Virginia. And there's some other schools in other divisions that are saying that. But Oscar Smith's defense, less than 5 points per game. Quality competition. They beat Indian River tonight. And their secondary with Jamari Deloach at the corner spot, who's going to Cincinnati. Jaden Dabbs at safety going to Army. We've got an interview with him coming up on 757 Saturday Sports Talk on Cova Sports TV. The Army commit, Jaden Koval, who just got a Penn State offer this week. And Chris Scott told me after the game that he's dead right. They're legit 8 deep. They can play 6-7 guys in that secondary and not have a big drop-off. And they shut down the Indian River passing game tonight. They still got Kings Fork in a couple weeks. And the offense has to show a little bit more explosiveness. Just telling you, their defense right now, it stacks up. Any conversation you're having about top defenses in the state, it's in the top 5 for sure. For sure. And that secondary, they can start calling themselves DBU the way they are performing right now. My man out there says, Bird, 5 points a game and less than 100 yards a game. Listen, Bird's defense belongs in the top 5 to top 10, but the Skyhawks, as many sacks as you're getting, and I was giving you tons and tons and tons of love last week. You still have a blemish on your record. You lost the Battle of Chester to Thomas Dale, who Matoka shut out tonight. And as I mentioned, Matoka's got some guys. They have those flashy skill guys we talked about, like Bryce Yates, who's going to Pittsburgh, like Dylan Newton-Short, who's headed to UVA, like Montino Williams, who's going to UVA. Caleb Williams, the D-end I mentioned, is going to South Carolina. But when you have a blemish, I can't make you the number 1 defense. And right now, Smith and Phoebus out of the 757 begin that conversation. 804 defenses, Bird's right there. Verana's up there. There's some really good defenses up there. I'm not sure about some of those teams like the TJs and the Armstrongs in terms of the defense, but right there. Our man says, Coach Barrett out there, we need JM versus PVI, Woodside versus South Lakes, Highland versus Stab, Hayfield versus Lansdowne, Maury versus Hopewell, Lake Taylor versus GW Danville. I'm cool with that. Let's make it happen. You're the orchestrator. You make it happen. But all these guys are going to want something out of it. And I'm not giving anybody anything. I give you free T-shirts. I give you food in a hospitality room. And all I get scoffed at. And people they start spitting at me. I got to start wearing cover. No. You tell them to be thankful and grateful for this great land that we live in and this great chance to showcase their athletes, which we try to give them. And then all I get is complaints and grievances. That's what you need to tell them. I'm getting a little fed up with it. I've been doing this a long time, and all I hear is the complaints. You don't get a thanks and nothing. That's you tell them that. But we love to have those matchups. It'd be great. One thing about me, I'm going to shoot it straight to all you folks. I'm not paying people money to play in a tournament. Not paying people anything. Doesn't happen. You get a game, you get a T-shirt, your coaches get free food. Plain and simple. I'm not paying out of pocket. They haven't done that for 16, 17 years. I'm not going to do that because when you pay guy A, then guy B, C, and D is going to say, where's mine? It's that I'm an equal opportunity offender. Okay? Get everybody mad at me. I'm not going to do that. So Oscar Smith's defense, lights out. They're balling out right now. That was number 4. And number 5, as we finish up the takeaways, and I have a couple extra nuggets for all you as we get closer to midnight here on this particular Friday, moving into Saturday. Number 5 on the takeaways is I got to go back to see what the heck it was. My man Castor Wheels. There are 2 funny tweets, by the way. 2 funny tweets I got to read here. Castor Wheels on the Maury 97-0 when he said, tisk, tisk, can't leave points on a table like that. Well, that was pretty funny. And the other one that was pretty funny, I'm not making fun of Manor by any means. Don't take that this way. You got to find some humor and stuff. Nate Bryan, who's Nate in Sports, said, Povich would have beat Manor just as badly. You are the father. You are the father. Let's go to number 5. Okay, we asked you all last week, who's the quietest or most surprising unbeaten in the state when it comes to Virginia high school football? I got some different responses after we put it out there, which I think the poll had, like, if I can remember right, I want to say C was Kettle Run. I want to say B was it Turner Ashby? It wasn't Turner Ashby. Help me, folks. Who was it? It might have been the Langley Saxons. And A, I have no idea. It might have been Stafford. I forget. I'm getting old. I'm getting old and cranky. And I have no filter anymore, which can be really bad. A lot worse than good. But Washington Liberty, as I'm sure Coach Barrett's going to say, shout out to his guy, Bobby Dobson out there, the basketball coach. Shout out to Josh Shapiro, the football coach of the Generals. They used to be Washington and Lee. They're now Washington and Liberty. Washington Liberty, not in Liberty. Washington Liberty up there in Arlington. They're 7-0. I have to eat some crow because I had them losing to George Marshall. They didn't lose to George Marshall. They ended up whacking George Marshall. Pretty good, 42-13 did WL. And that's impressive because it's their best start since 1956. They're in the same region with, that's right, the great Bobby Dobson. They're in the same region as the Madison Warhawks, who have won, I believe, 4 straight region titles. And here they are in Class 6 Region D. They just finally cracked our Class 6 top 10 on Virginia Preps, which you can see free all the time. I should make it premium, but I'm nice to all you. Make it free. Number 10 in the Class 6 top 10. They're going to probably go 10-0, what I'm looking at. And they've got 1 playoff win all time. 1, which came in 2010. And this has the makings to be a November to remember. You know, baseball teams are having an October to remember. Unfortunately, mine is not. But football teams want to have a November to remember. And in doing so, they're doing it with a lot of balance on offense. Their defense has been playing incredibly well. Just last week for Washington Liberty, they ended up having a young man for them with 18 tackles in a game. Yeah, 18 tackles in one game. Padding stats, well, it's good to pad tackle stats. That means you're making plays. You know, some coaches will pad their rushers and their receivers and their quarterbacks numbers. Well, let me tell you something, folks. This young man, he was padding the tackle stats for Washington Liberty. And that young man goes by the name of none other than Ben Hughes. 3 sacks. They beat Herndon 28-18 last week. I'm not saying they beat Madison. I'm not saying they're going to win the state playoffs. I'm not saying they win a state championship. But they weren't on my radar whatsoever. I give them props, and I think they will get their second and, dare I say, third playoff win in school history, depending on what kind of seed they get, what kind of draw they get. They can get a 2 or 3 seed if Madison gets the 1 seed. And there you go. Neat story. There's some other undefeated still out there. I think coming into the week, we had 41 of our 60 teams in our top 10s across the 6 classifications, unblemished. That's some kind of story, folks. Some kind of story. So there you have it. Some other quick hitters. I want to give some props. You can tag them out there, all you folks out there that are watching this. I want to make sure you get this young man tagged out there via Twitter, via X, via Instagram. My star of the week, I could call him stud of the week, but that could sound kind of My star of the week, if I'm going to give a Hatfield 5-star report, it doesn't have to be a 5-star recruit. It goes to a young man in Nokesville, Patriot High School, and that's Jackson McCarter, the running back who's going to Villanova. Big showdown on Thursday night football under the lights. It was better than the Seahawks and 49ers. Trust me, it was better. Patriot beat Gainesville 35-20, and the Villanova commit, Jackson McCarter, ran the football 17 times for 202 yards and 3 TDs. That's 11.8 yards per pop. That's getting it done. Coming in, he had 66 rushes for 848 and 16 TDs. That's 12.8 yards per attempt. All right, not quite as average, just by a smidge under, 11.8 to 12.8. Nonetheless, he's over 1,000 for the season in 6 games. Patriot is 5-1. He's got 83 rushes for 1050 and 19 TDs. He hears about Jeffrey Overton from Hayfield who's going to Virginia Tech. He hears about Javon Ford at Kings Fork who's uncommitted. He hears about the quarterback who runs it in Harry Dalton who's going to Southern Cal. He says we can add Green Run back. Green Run versus Westfield. We talking about football or basketball? I think he's talking about basketball. I'm pretty sure he is. He hears about Gideon Davidson who's going to Clemson from Liberty Christian. And guess what? Jackson McCarter right now is rushing towards the record books and trying to put his Patriot Pioneers team on his back. He's not doing it alone. He's got a good quarterback in Tyler Knutson. The defense has got some guys balling out. Got a couple linebackers that are making plays. Nonetheless, you have to love what McCarter is doing for Sean Finnerty's Pioneers. So he is our star of the week. We do a Chicho's Pizza 757 football player of the week. Maybe we'll get this star of the week sponsored by somebody out there that wants to help. Give him a big gold star or give him a big ribbon or give him something. I don't know what that would be. Some of you out there are a lot smarter than me to come up with what we should give him for this little star of the week. I'm going to try to do this every week to give you my superstar of the week. For this week, it's Jackson McCarter. You are the man. The man. Make sure he gets told that. He can be like Ric Flair and go, woo! He's the man. Patriot versus Verona is the last one. How many games you got over there? You got like 19 games. You going to play those on 3 different courts? 19 games over there. Patriot Verona would not be a bad football game. It'd be a pretty good game. And there's some multi-sport athletes in that one. There you go, helmet sticker. I like that idea. Give them the helmet sticker. You know, they did it for College Game Day. I like that, the helmet sticker. Give them something. VA Preps helmet sticker. Yeah. Maybe we give them some VA Prep swag. People don't know this, by the way. I'm not trying to, this is not the grievances hour. All those dry fits that people love wearing, and they're very comfy. This is like the same material here. And those things aren't cheap, by the way. They come out of my pocket. Mine. We don't get them donated. In my pocket. I'll come out of pocket for the superstars, though. They deserve it. They deserve it. I have no earthly idea if they won. Actually, they did win. Somebody out there is asking, did GW win? They did win. They are rolling, are the Eagles. Better than the Philadelphia Eagles right now. 56-8 over Martinsville. GW got the W. You can ask me questions, and we'll answer them right here. We can answer them right here on the show. Final couple minutes here. Oh, game of the week for next week. Game of the week. Where are we going to send Corso? Where are we going to send Ed Young? We should put Ed Young in some helmet gear and let him go to a game. He's not coaching right now, even though somebody told me he did apply for a basketball. Oh, did I say that out loud? Someone told me that. I can't say what school. I can't say what school. Someone told me he did apply for a job. I can't say it right now because this will get circulated between tomorrow morning. I'll get a phone call at 1 a.m., and then that'll be bad. Huguenot Bird's a good choice. That is not a bad choice. That was the silver or bronze pick. That's a very good pick. Very good pick. You're good, you. You're good, you. That's De Niro from Analyze This or Analyze That. I forget which one was good. By the way, Barrett, if you're out there still watching, that should make the top 50 to 250 movies we talked about last week on IMDb. Analyze This, Analyze That with Billy Crystal and Robert De Niro. Really good movie. Underrated movie. It's not like elite 5-star movie, but it's like a 3.5, 4-star movie. It's a very good movie. You're good, you. You're good, you. You're good, you. It doesn't have as many athletes on the field, but going to the Three Rivers District, not Three Rivers Stadium, which was where the Steelers used to play their games back in the day, back when Neil O'Donnell was throwing INTs to the Cowboys in the Super Bowl or losing AFC championship games under Bill Cowher. It wasn't the Chuck Noll days when you had Lynn Swann and John Stallworth catching it from the Blonde Bomber and Terry Bradshaw. Not to be confused with another Terry Bradshaw, which is for another time because we're running short on time and it's past midnight. I'm getting a little, strange in the head. Good thing I don't consume that type of beverage. 1996. Good one there. Game of the week. Huguenot Bird's a good choice. There's about 5 or 6 games that'll make my dynamic dozen, and that'll be one of them. Curious to see how Jason Wright does against that Huguenot defense. Can the Skyhawks get that pass rush on the Falcons. You got a little storyline subplot there, which I'm sure our guy Daniel Lewis at Virginia Preps will document next week, where you got Wright against his former school, those receivers, Evion Lewis, Markel Dabney at linebacker. He's among the best linebackers in the state. By the way, another linebacker tonight that caught my eye from Oscar Smith, Malachi White. I talked about those DBs. He was hitting people tonight. Neil O'Donnell, a.k.a. Danny White. Yeah, Danny White, all right. He wasn't Roger Staubach. He wasn't Terry Bradshaw. What about Cordell / Stewart? It's a slash man, Cordell. We could spend some time on Cordell later. That's no story. That's the After Dark show. Say something funny. Colorado, by the way. Colorado's in action Saturday night. Big one against Kansas State. All right, I'm getting off topic here. My game of the week. People will hate this unless you're in Southwest Virginia. Then you'll love this. You'll love this. I gave the Glenville Highlanders a lot of love last week with Brody Doyot. We got a recap from their game beating Radford by our man Rodney Young. No relation to Ed. And guess what? Glenver taking on Allegheny. Allegheny. It's the game of the week. Glenver's in Region 2C. Half of you folks that are watching, listening to this that haven't fallen asleep yet, they may not be aware that Allegheny's in Region 3C, where you have the defending state champs in Liberty Christian. You have Turner Ashby with Micah Matthews, the Virginia Tech football, baseball, dual sport athlete commit. You've got Heritage of Lynchburg with a multi-time state champion coach in Brad Bradley and his Pioneers. Rustburg, a lot of good teams. Allegheny is quietly rolling along here, now at 6-0. They beat Carroll of the County, not the coward of the county. Carroll of the County tonight. Carroll County beat them 27-8. Glenver was a winner, 49-7 over. I forget who the heck they beat. Glenver had no trouble whatsoever, though, in their victory. 49-7 for them after they beat Radford last week. Allegheny has held their opponent to 14 points or less in every game so far this season. Meanwhile, the Glenver Highlanders, coached by Kevin Clifford, former state championship coach, his team has scored at least 34 points in every game they played this season. They beat Patrick County tonight. So something's got to give. Allegheny's defense, Glenver's offense, game of the year. Winner's got a chance to get a number 1 seed. Loser, not out of it at all. That could be your photo finish next week, 36-32 if it's high scoring. Maybe it's a 20-14 game, or maybe Glenver just beats the living daylights out of them. That's the sneaky game of the week. We're sending Coach Young with some headgear and some mascots to that game. Whether he likes it or not, is aware of it, he's going out to Lowmore for that game, and he will be there to represent for Glenver Allegheny. And that is just about it for this edition of the IG Live special. A couple quick idle thoughts as we sign off. Big day of college football. You have the Ducks of Oregon taking on the Buckeyes of Ohio State. It screams 38-35. That's a score I've been thinking in my head all day long. I think Dylan Gabriel will end up costing the Ducks in this game. He'll have either a red zone INT like he did last week with a couple, or what will happen is they'll have a 3rd and 8. He doesn't convert ASL for a field goal, or they'll be driving him out of time at the end. Ohio State with a 757, a VA guy from the 804, and Trevion Henderson on its roster running the football. Mighty, mighty good. I got the Buckeyes winning that game 38-35, even though my preseason national title pick was Oregon. And I do think Oregon's defense is better than what it has been in recent years. Neither team has played a real tussle of a game. Don't give a piss about nothing but the tide. Our boy Willie, is Alabama going to bounce back? They played South Carolina this week. I will tell you this. Arch Manning goes to the bench as Quinn Ewers comes in. Texas is going to smoke Oklahoma. Not going to be a game. Waste of time with the Red River rivalry shootout matchup. It's not worth our time. It's not what it used to be. It's later in the afternoon. I'll be watching the baseball at 1 o'clock to see if the Guardians can beat the Tigers. America needs the Guardians to win because we're tired of the Dodgers. We're tired of the Yankees. We're tired of the amazing Mets. It's time for somebody new to win. The Cubs had a long history of losing, not winning a championship. The Red Sox had theirs snapped. It's time for Cleveland to win something. And we're not talking about basketball. Even LeBron James, by the way, is rooting for the Guardians, though I call him a phony because he's really a Yankees fan. And he'll be changing that hat if the Yankees win. They'll be changing the Cleveland hat if they beat the Tigers tomorrow. So he's a phony. I'm sorry. I don't care if he's the king. He's a phony. My other 2 college football games I want to give you a quick thought on. Not about Willie's Tide, who should be just fine against Shane Beamer's Gamecocks. even if Shane Beamer's Gamecocks continue to get guys from VA, like they got the kid from Matoka coming, they got Fred Johnson from Maury last year. Oh, and I have to give you a thought on the Maury game with Manor too, 97-0. Kansas State, Colorado. I actually believe, no, Comerica Park. No. I actually believe, and this pains me to say because people that know me know I'm not a Deion fan. I actually think Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders, and the Buffaloes will beat Kansas State on Saturday night as a 3-point pup in Boulder, a 10:15 Eastern start on ESPN. I actually think it's a good spot for them to knock off Kansas State. I can't believe I'm saying that. And I also can't believe that as quiet as Colorado's been lately, that they could be moving to 5-1. And this might be the game that catapults Deion into the national limelight again. So that's one of note. Arizona BYU is somewhat interesting. Penn State Southern Cal is somewhat interesting. I root against James Franklin. He gets on my nerves. I'm just being honest with you folks here. Cal at Pittsburgh's not that interesting, although Pittsburgh is a quiet 5-0, soon to be 6-0, I do believe. Arizona BYU is all right. Florida, Tennessee, I think the Gators are overrated, not very good. Tennessee should bounce back, as a 14.5-point favorite. Ole Miss, LSU's the other game I want to get on. LSU, I think, will knock off Lane Kiffin and the Rebs in Baton Rouge on a Saturday night. I think it'll be a little lower scoring than some anticipate. 62.5 is a lot of points in that game. A lot of points. I know it's been shootouts in the past, but I think the LSU defense will get under Jackson Dart's skin just a little bit in that game. So that's a good one at 7:30 on Saturday night. If you're not into Ohio State, Oregon, other game you can check out, LSU and Ole Miss in the SEC. And by the way, the Heisman food chain, you're obviously going to put the great quarterback for the Miami Hurricanes, number one, that's Cam Ward. But the guy who needs to be put number two, even maybe ahead of Travis Hunter, I know he's a two-way bona fide stud playmaker, but pay attention to the running back at Boise State, Ashton Jeanty. He's got 1,031 yards, 16 touchdowns. Boise's got one loss this year, which was to Oregon in a close game at Autzen Stadium, 37-34. If Boise wins out, and this young man who right now, again, has got 1,000 yards rushing, he's done that in 5 games. He's still got 7 games to go. If he gets 2,500 yards and Boise is sitting at, what would that be, like 11-1, something like that? He might be your guy. I know it's Boise State. They play in the Mountain West. What are you talking about? Give Ashton Jeanty a look. He's going to get 2,000 yards rushing, and I think he should be your Heisman favorite if Miami does not go undefeated and if Colorado doesn't finish with, 10-plus wins, which I don't think is going to happen. I know Hunter and Cam Ward are the flavor of the months right now. It was Mr. Milroe from Alabama before the Tide took the L against Vanderbilt. Ashton Jeanty, keep an eye on him. Any future tickets out there, you might make a nice profit on it. So that's going to do it. We're on 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. Eastern on 757 Saturday Sports Talk on Cova Sports TV. Got some interviews, some special guests planned, including Ivan Thomas of the Hampton Pirates men's basketball program. He's going to the Hall of Fame up there at TC Williams, or I guess now Alexandria City this weekend. He's supposed to join us around 10:30 a.m. Eastern. And Coach Young and I will give you our NFL picks, more on the college football and the baseball, and, of course, the high school football scene. So we thank you all for tuning in. Been another blast for you all as we close out this Friday night, the 12th day of October. It's now the 12th day after the 11th day of October was concluded around midnight, and we'll do it again with you next week right here on our Cova Sports TV YouTube channel, as well as on VirginiaPreps.com, Facebook, all over the web, IG, Twitter, Apple, Spotify. Enjoy your weekend, I should say, and we'll talk to you next time. Tune in to Cova Sports TV. Hit that subscribe button. We'll talk to you again soon.